Pretty close. Not bad. Hello. Hi, how are you? It has been quite a time. So, thanks for hanging out with me. Happy precursor to a full moon, a blood moon, a many-named moon, an eclipse, the last of. Last for this year and not for a hot minute. Happy all of those good things, all of those filled things, all of those juicy things. And in Taurus, no less, who I'm sure would love the gossip. So juicy. Yeah, I read something about there not being another eclipse till 2025. So that will, all of this, all of this always impacts everything for sure. But like, I think since Mars has been backtracking in Gemini, and we ate our words about Mercury retrograde, a lot of things have happened for a lot of people, and I think we're clarifying some things that will add to longevity. And that's not just me speculating or feeling too much. I'm very literally looking at the sky today, or what will be that day. It's also in direct opposition to, like, not just the sun, but Venus and Mercury. And for some reason, my first thought with that was an opposition of tradition. And maybe that's just patterns, and maybe that's just defense mechanisms. Like, that can take many forms. But it often, it's just an opportunity to run a little deeper than the surface. Because tradition impacts longevity. I feel like these oppositions also aren't just planetary oppositions. It's very much like ground nodes kind of at odds with each other and sort of bisected and dissected and squared, if you will, by Saturn, which is very much those intricate lessons that Taurus may feel to, and not Taurus individually as Taurian people, but our own Taurus nature as a collective. I feel like that will come with very much a lot of pride in both our interactions with, and in a great way, but also in a careful way, in interactions with other people and in interactions with life itself and the lessons that we have to learn. Sometimes we are a little too proud to sort of take one on our metaphorical chin, if you will. And that can thwart your momentum forward. And ultimately that is not the goal. But I also think I accidentally said Virgo at some point. But I think a Taurian nature also comes with a lot of patience and a lot of full breath and a lot of relaxed exploring, ease of tensions, like expansive, but in a like warm, melty way, which is nice. considering, and frost moon is also what it has been called. Or frozen moon. I don't know why I finger gunned that or whatever. And there will still be a lot of heat in that time, however. I mean, and that's been true too. I don't know. My body's still acclimating to the weather, so that can take many literal forms. And this opposition does take a literal form, and just the this opposition in the square is exactly why, you know, voting season and propaganda and all of that. I mean, maybe not why, but definitely heightened. But yeah, I feel like I've seen all of these themes as well, and I've said many times that all of these lessons are accumulating and backtracking, and while it is the beginning of a cold season, it is also sort of the end of a warm season. It's the beginning of the end kind of wave of the astrological year. And it will still crescendo, if you will. And so we are strapping up for that ride. So grab your straps. And let's pull some fucking cards, my friend. And see what massive Taurian nature we can strap up with for this moon. I love that metaphor, wherever that fucking came from. I distinctly remember reading something too about it happening at 6 a.m., which I found interesting because it's a blood moon, and 6 can be so foreboding for people that don't understand that it is mere perfection of love. And I think that's precisely the balancing act of Saturn's lessons in many ways right now. And perhaps one of the traditions that Mercury and Venus are speaking to in opposition with the moon and Uranus. Uranus in Taurus. And of grand schemes, as again we work with major nodal, long-standing, interrelational energies. And that in and of itself is kind of tradition. Status quo, perhaps, but still tradition. Okay. Full moon. Much like we are hanging out, my friend, please just sit, be chill. The straighter your spine, the better. And you'll make your hands available as if there's cards in between us, like we're hanging out. So you can also be open to whatever it is that you want to pick up from this. We'll take 3 deep breaths in, and on the exhale, imagine a shadow card bringing forth whatever it is that, again, you will need to pick up from this on your own. And train your body to and psyche to be available to those things. I'm rambling. Okay. Take a deep breath in. exhale. Take a deep breath in. And exhale. Last deep breath in. And exhale. I feel like I just felt all of what I said, really. Like almost, like not... I don't not take myself seriously, but almost like not taking myself seriously, like too proud to. And also like a slight tremor in anticipation, like impatience, really. Whether that be impatience with our growth, impatience with the weather, impatience with other people, impatience with disagreement, impatience with eyes that do not quite meet your own, and like, admittedly, we all are frustrated by those things. How is it that we meet them, and is it that becoming? Or is this where we see all of Mars's trouble? I tell ya, you always know Mars is doing some weird shit by the way people like road rage and tweet the fuck out for very silly things. Interesting. I love that. 10 of Wands is the bottom of the deck, which is very much a large level of intensity and charge, which stems from friction, and there's a 2 here, so that very much comes there, and that's heat. And those are the things that keep us warm in the winter. Friction can be a driving source, and a motivator, and a heating source. It does not have to be wildfire. It does not have to be a sort of untamed flame. I don't like the term untamed, but you know, you have to protect your circle too. Protect the flame. You can't just let it go willy-nilly, or it'll blow out or do something you don't want it to. And that can be that unsureness and that hesitation too sometimes. There's an excitedness that can take hold as well. But it is a frustration and a vibration too sometimes. It's a magical thing. We have to learn how to fucking work with it, or it becomes an incredible pressure to deal with as well. I really love this card. It's quite beautiful. And ultimately what this character bleeds is like pure heart energy. And it's sort of the very depths of them. And that may also have to do with sort of relieving some trauma and whatever fricative nature exists in these oppositions and these squares. However, they are magical building stones to be able to wield as well, because it is wands, and so it is of a creative nature as well. So that's a really beautiful thing, and all of these are also inverted. So in a time of isolation, I think it is appropriate to understand that as internal, which I always kind of say anyway, that there is no such thing as like, I mean, I'm very much not of the party of not reading the inverted cards. But essentially these would just be, I mean, they're all on the same plane. There's no sense in not. Okay. Let's see. The Ace of Wands exists with the 10 of Wands. Interesting. So you have a 10 and 11, essentially, if you play poker. Which is interesting, because you would think that, especially in this time, you would be striving for the 11, or I'm sure you think you do. strive for the 11, not realizing that you already have it. It's just sheathed. Hidden or existed moments of contact. Sort of in the way that, like, we can't always see electricity, but when there's contact points, it is a very visual experience. It is a very real experience. But it's hard to prove, if that makes sense. That also, I think, comes again from this fire energy, this fricative nature. It's a spark. Interesting. A spark, a juggling, a balancing. There's a lot of flow following that. It's just like, it doesn't have to be a chaotic spark. Interesting. It doesn't have to be a chaotic spark. It can be very, like, I don't know, graceful and flowing. Like, I don't know, like flame dancing isn't necessarily aggressive or violent. Think about the ways that presents, I suppose. And I find that really interesting to think about in general, because we all have some visual. If we had no words, we had no color, like, the only way we could describe these things, like lines, simple lines, would still suffice, so these things can be navigated simply, essentially, is my point. In this balancing act, I don't know, it's not an act. In this clever balancing, I don't know, this fun to and fro, this kind of hot dance, the star is also present. Which I think would be like the grand scale longevity of this too as well. Which is interesting because it's almost like the big picture isn't being seen initially, but it's also already present. Which again is those issues of pride and patience, and, you know, are we too proud to see, you know, some things that are already working out for us, or are we too impatient with ourselves in seeing that progress? And so it's kind of, you know, hounding when we can find ease in preparing for the many things that we are already prepared for in the coming season, time, months, whatever. Let's see. I mean, how do we wield the star energy with shit we already know? But at the same time, like, giving it, maybe it's a familiar thing, but we're giving it a chance in a different way. Like, you can draw the same thing over and over again, and it comes out differently. You begin to explore it in a different way. But at the same time, you're not... That's not a practice makes perfect. That's a practice makes familiar. That's not a doing the same thing over and expecting the same result. That's doing the same thing or what seems like the same thing, and allowing it to be different. That's allowing what you need and not necessarily what you want. And that's also maybe difficult to grasp in a seemingly carefree way, but I do think that the Four of Wands often speaks to curiosity in a very childlike nature, and sometimes that's exactly why, like, it's like the magic dies as you get older or whatever, and so we fail to see that we've ever had it at all, or that, we forget it, or forget that we ever had it, or fail to see it around us, kind of thing. The stars very much understanding that wonderment, like, as a growing part of you, a growing part of that capacity, for whatever that is, really. Like, maybe for you, that's not your magic, but love. Maybe for you, that's not your magic, but your ability to forgive, or your acceptance of possibility. All of those things are still magic. Let's see. I fucking knew it. I knew it. How can we best work with how do you best work with the Ace of Wands energy? We already got what you already know. And this is that it's not outside, it's inside. And maybe that's not seeking inspiration, but allowing yourself to find it in you. And as crazy as it sounds, sometimes, most of the time, I'm lying all the time, pretty much any time, I don't know what to do, meditate. And if not in exactly that moment, shortly thereafter, some fucking idea pops in my silly head. It's really quite funny and quite strange. You can get kind of lost in it. But my point is, the Four of Swords and the Six of Swords all came up. And that is very much, I think, like the beginning stages of a very long comfort journey. Like it's the feeling I'm getting is it's sort of like, you take your shoes off, you fold your clothes, you do this, like you're preparing for a different part of your day or a different part of yourself. Like the unwinding becomes its own journey. The going into self mode outside of work mode becomes its own journey. For a lot of reasons, people will like shower, when they get home, so that they can kind of wipe off who they were outside and just be inside. Whatever it is, it's almost like a disrobing, I suppose, a demasking maybe. But it's like, or like you like going through fucking security, you like take everything out of your pocket kind of deal. It's very much like getting home, taking everything out of your pocket, taking your shoes off, like taking the layers off, whatever it is, so that you can move freely in a safe space. And that safe space will always be, and has always been, you. The element of the Six of Swords, I think, is like the idea of protection, and that's not guarding, and that's not closing off. For what it's giving me right now is often when I meditate, or when I have a lot going on, or like I need to separate that for a second, Or if I'm meditating and I want to be able to kind of put things away so that I can focus on not that, I'll kind of put it safely away, visually, in my head, so that it's, it's not going to go anywhere, it's not going to run rampant, it's not going to, taint me with doubt in a pure moment. It's not going to stress me out when I don't know what to do, or whatever it is. It's like very literally in my head there's this beautiful box, and I open it and there's an abyss, and I put my shit in there and I watch it float away or get stuck to the side because I can't quite, and then I close the lid and I can go where else the fuck I need to go, and it's not running rampant. That's not to say that that's healthy to do with everything, but it doesn't stay there. It sort of just makes it a little bit more peaceful to deal with. But the Six of Swords is like you don't have to guard it in order to protect it. You don't have to shut down in order to be able to... I don't know if I can even say it clear. To be able to like move freely in a safe space. Yeah. I feel like I'm kind of beating a dead horse with that one. Poor horse. I would never. Oh my gosh. But yeah, ultimately that's like a place of comfort and also vulnerability. But that also creates a lot of excitement and a lot of capacity for curiosity and expansion. And that's ultimately what the star is so incredibly capable of. It's a really profound energy to have, and I think it has an orbit to itself, and magnetism, if you will. And that's again why the Ten of Wands was present at the bottom of the deck, because it's quite a powerful place to be. And a popular one. Okay. More numbers. We'll breathe again. Okay, I like the way that feels. Alrighty, my friends again. 3D press, same thing, shadow card. Party on. Sorry, I should tell you, right? Deep breath in. And exhale. Not bad. Deep breath in. And exhale. I just get so excited. Breathe. Deep breath in. And exhale. Interesting. I feel like while it will be ample in experiences with other people and conversations and arguments and all of that jazz, because we are, again, dealing with major nodal energies, the growth that will have to do with those experiences, but will have more to do at the end of the day with the way that we communicate to ourselves. That influences a lot of that growth and a lot of that expansion. So when you find yourself at a loss, consider how you would treat yourself. A lesson in empathy, I suppose, is the simplest way to put that. Interesting. Ace of Hearts, bottom of the deck. Lesson in empathy, indeed. But it's also a lesson in passion. That is a very directing motive. Pulls, even. And you have no choice but to listen, and that's a dangerous thing to say, because that's also where energy coagulates and is fertile ground for repeat cycles, I suppose. But that is also where you learn to peel back layers of yourself and understand what is chemical and hormonal and spiritual truth versus whatever society's truth can be. And that can be its own interesting opposition. Queen of Diamonds, Eight of Spades, Four of Diamonds. What an interesting reiteration of the lesson of patience again, because I feel like the last pulls worked very much inward, and these are very much building and stabilizing in true Taurus fashion, really, with earth elements as your pillars and this Ace of Hearts. Why do I want to keep saying Ace of Hearts? Ultimately is like what we explore and what fills the space, but what is intimately within that space as well. The Eight of Spades is a growing and a transformation that also exists within that oscillating Two of Pentacles energy. And that's sort of how we end up inverting and regurgitating and re-becoming ourselves, ruminating on and churning us out for something better. It can be quite a tangled process. But when things feel constricting, again, maybe that's why I'm so excited to breathe. But I mean, even very literally, when things feel constricting, your brain fires off worry before your body actually needs to be worried. Physiological responses. But so chill. Love ya. Breathe. Perfect segue into ultimately that fills your body with so much power and so much vitality, and ultimately longevity. There's the word again. And so the Queen of Diamonds, I think, is speaking to that level of nourishment. And I spoke on peeling levels of yourself to navigate this Ace of Hearts, and what those pulls exactly are. A sheath of understanding yourself in like Vedic philosophy, like yoga philosophy, is very much that, and the way that we nourish ourselves, and that does not mean diet and exercise. That's another sheath. Does not mean diet, does not mean physical necessarily. The way we process information, the way we process stress, the way our body holds on to it, is all something to explore. This is prime Taurus talk too, because they're very much natured in that way. This stabilizing factor, this, honorable jawline, confidence, and that's not what makes confidence either. It's something that's prevalent, but that's not what makes confidence either. It also makes me think of that character in some Disney movie. Broad, tough Latin chick who also wanted to cry. Wanted to be soft, wanted to play, wanted to find, I'm sure, a softness in them that was capable of play. The Four of Diamonds is, I think, that other stabilizing factor, and it's such a grand rise in ourselves that we're able to have more of a capacity for others, and that's where we build that stability at home, here, not necessarily here, and here, mentally, in a way that shares that. They're also playing with this ball, and I think that has less to do with the way that we play with people and more to do with the way that we play with ideas and the way that we converse, the way that we throw things kind of back and forth between each other, because there's very much that energy as well. The ideas that we're playing with right now are Saturn, and that's very much that spinning of energy. It's the ball. And the game is Pluto. And Jupiter, maybe, I guess. Or it's Earth. Haha. Anyway. Queen of Swords, Eight of Hearts. Okay. We did them all. Let's see. Oh, I love that. I figured I'd pull a card to clarify the Eight of Swords. But it doubled down. I got Eight of Wands, King of Swords. Which lends itself to the reiteration of the idea of sort of like self-elevation, and that has less to do with what you have and more to do with how you are, not even who you are. Fuck that. You are just who you are right now. You've also been many other lives and people and memories. Also cellularly have the memory of your mother and your father and their parents and so on and so forth. And we're all tapped into a large database of thought with social media. So it's easy to get lost in those ideas. I just did. But that's this funny reiteration of these eights. It was like, okay, well, if this is this oscillation over this, how do I stabilize this Earth energy? What is a stabilizing factor in this Earth energy? How can I lend that to? And so it clarified these eights again. And then we have the King of Swords, adding itself to this elevation idea. There's a lot of movement, and we're going to have to find stabilization some way. And that is within the self. And stabilization of mind amidst rampant energy and triggers can be difficult. But take a breath before you talk over somebody. Take a breath before you haul ass on somebody. It's gonna get weird. But it's also gonna pull you toward better things. Like that's the painful truth of some very beautiful truth. And reminds me of a feeling that I wish on all of you. Truly. I hope that helps. I feel like there will be a lot of interesting lessons to be had in general. But I feel like there's a lot of really like positive and exciting and like sexy creative energy too. So fuck yeah, and party on. I love that for you. I love that for me. Life is pretty damn good. But with that, I'm hungry, and I'm gonna go nourish my body, and nourish my mind with something funny, which is a great way to reconcile pride, so you don't take yourself so seriously, and also learn patience, because listening to anybody tell stories sure allows you to ask questions and in your own mind and understand, good solid fucking payoff for it. Many lessons in life. But party on. Love you. All that jazz. And the moon's gonna be beautiful, so enjoy it. And moons that are this juicy often have real heavy wakes. So you didn't miss it. If you missed the day, I'm sure it's still coming. Party on.